Yes,
It's
you're
working.
there. Brilliant.
Oh, such a relief. Well, this is
Oh,
my first ever Insta Live, so this is very exciting.
it is. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Hold on a
So
bit. I just need to turn the sound up on
I've
mine,
got
actually.
my iPad. I'm on my iPad right now, so I couldn't work out a way of using the webcam on my PC. So I'm holding up the iPad. So at any moment the picture goes a bit funny, it's probably because the iPad's going to fall forward. So I'm literally holding it up right now, which is probably a naff thing to do. But I think if I take my hand off it, it's going to topple over.
Oh,
But
right. Okay.
thank you so much. Anyway, for this opportunity, I really enjoyed Claire's Instagram live and Bex's one, and I just thought I would get in contact and join in the fun, basically.
Yeah, I know. I was very excited when you messaged me and said that you wanted to join. I was like, yeah, definitely, brilliant, for sure.
Thank you. Well, it's just it's a lovely format. You know, people. I think particularly at the moment, people like to chat. You know, maybe people don't get the opportunity to have a chat. We don't know each other that well at all, but obviously I follow you on Twitter and everything. So I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to have a wee blether, as they say up in Scotland. You know, just have a chat and yeah.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that because we've sort of messaged a few times on Twitter and sort of, I think one thing I always think about you as well is that you're always very generous about retweeting people's tweets and things like that, which I'm always very grateful for, because I think, oh, people are actually going to see this now.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing that for years. I mean, obviously, particularly during the pandemic, I think it's particularly important that everyone works together in the languages community, which is what has been happening. And I think I've just carried on do what I normally do, but I think during the pandemic it has particular importance because everyone is trying to, you know, get their message out there or share resources or whatever it might be. So if I can help with my, you know, with my influence or whatever, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, every day I'm just bowled over by the generosity of the MFL community. I just think it's incredible.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, the resources that people share, and I think, yeah, it's amazing.
It is, but I think particularly at the moment it seems to be that, I mean, I think teachers in general have been sharing for many years, but I think digitally the fact that we've, you know, with blogging, with social networks and what have you, that's been amplified, and particularly during the pandemic, as I was saying, I think that's it's gone to a whole new level. I think, you know, not thank goodness, but obviously we would much prefer the pandemic to have never happened. But the fact that we have the connectivity in order to do, you know, Insta lives or videos or whatever, share things however we want to do them. You can imagine if this happened 10 years ago, it would have been a completely different kettle of fish. And the fact that we have the MFL Twitterati community, we have the Facebook groups, people are able to share ideas and resources so easily nowadays. It's just been, I think it's really helped everybody out, and then all the webinars I've helped to organise through the Association for Language Learning. I think that well, if it happened 10 years ago, we would have been on very slow dial-up. It would have been completely different kettle of fish. So in that sense, I think that's been one of the silver linings of this whole situation, and the way in which the community has been so wonderful in sharing ideas. It's been great.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I've just noticed it, but I think there have been a lot more webinars and a lot more opportunities for people to share their ideas. And I really love the, you know, like the show and tell webinars where people just, you know, I did one where I just spoke for 5 minutes. And I think that's quite nice as well. When you've not done one before, it's a nice way to kind of ease yourself in gently and just okay, I only need to talk for 5 minutes, so it's not too scary.
Yeah, instead of saying, right, I'd like you to talk for a whole hour on X, Y, and Z, and people go, I'm not quite ready for that yet, Joe. But you know, but I think I think the idea of the show and tell, we've done different versions of that. We've done ones when people have had, say, 5 minutes, as you say, to speak, and then some longer ones when they've had, say, 20 minutes. But I think, but certainly with the Tilt webinars we've been doing, I think we've tried to appeal to everybody in the sense of, to start off with, we organise them very much around different platforms. So looking at, if you're in a Google environment, you can do X, Y, and Z. Then we did a lot on Microsoft. we then got a bit more creative. We did sort of like ideas around breakout rooms and sort of virtual adventures. And then more recently, we've been doing more sort of like workshopy clinics, as opposed to repeating the same content as before. We've been encouraging people to ask questions and share their screen and say, well, actually, I had a real issue around X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with this? Rather than just doing like an hour presentation on things we've already done. We've done like over 80 webinars now, I think, if not more, since March. So it's been a huge amount of work, all of which have been available for free. There's no subscription to it at all. It's all free. So myself and Helen have absolutely worked our socks off, but it's been very, very much appreciated by the community. So from that point of view, I think it's all been worthwhile. And the great thing about it is the way in which not only have we had UK language teachers presenting ideas, but also we've had people from Australia, quite a few people from the States. We've had people from around Europe, and there's been real stars. That I think that unless you're really into this sort of thing, or you've been, following certain people for a long time, I think as from the general language teacher audience may not be aware of some, say for example, some teachers in the States may not be aware of how amazing these people are. People like Heidi Trude and Meredith White and what have you, who I'm sorry that the camera's sort of moving around a bit. I'm literally just trying to make sure it doesn't fall off. But there we go. That's that sort of like, amateurish level to it. That's all good. But yeah, so that's been a real pleasure. So I've tried to really bring leverage on the people I'm aware of and basically go around and ask them, and everyone said yes. I can't think of a person off the top of my head who said no. Some people I've had to like encourage a lot. Some people, well, one person in particular I can think of, it's taken me about 6 months at least to get them to say yes. But she said yes finally, so that's brilliant.
Yay!
So yeah, so there we are. So that yeah, that's been a huge amount of work, but I think it's really helped people. And I know through tweets and what have you, or people, saying in the webinars at the end when we have a bit of a chat. But I know people really appreciate it, so that's good.
Yeah. Now I was going to say actually, so you're saying that you've had people from like Australia and the States and places like that. Do you think there is the same kind of MFL community in other countries, or do you think I feel it's quite a UK thing, but that might just be because I'm more connected with teachers in the UK. I
think in the States there's the Lang Chat community, which is LANGCHAT, Lang Chat. So they are very dynamic, very strong. They have regular chats as well. Although what they tend to do is they tend to have like the MFL chat that Bex Nobes, who you had on, does. They have like an hour slot where they talk about a certain topic, and if you check out the Lang Chat hashtag, you'll see that people are using it all the time. But I think that they tend to focus, as far as I'm aware, on a particular comment, discussion. Whereas with the MFL Twitterati hashtag, it's used all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
And particularly at the moment. And then I think, because originally, when Bex started the MFL chat, I think she was like using the MFL Twitterati hashtag for the chat, but it didn't work in the sense that it was difficult to delineate between the MFL Twitterati tags and then the between what's happening in the conversation in general, people just using the hashtag. So that's why she came up with MFL chat, and it's grown and grown and grown. I think it's fantastic what Bex has done there. It's really awesome.
I think that's another thing as well. I think it's been going for at least a couple of years, I'm sure. But definitely it seems, again, every Monday now it's quite a big thing, and people are like going on Twitter deliberately at that time and joining in the chats and stuff like that, whereas I don't know, my impression before was that there wasn't quite as much engagement.
No, that's right. It definitely has grown. But I think even before the pandemic, I think it was getting, more and more people were taking part. But I think particularly during the pandemic, I think, again, it's a very human thing. People just like to meet up and have a chat. And I think that's why with the new Clubhouse, isn't it? The new audio Clubhouse app that people are now migrating to and checking that out and having audio conversations. And I see that Twitter now are introducing Twitter Spaces, And I think which is
Oh,
like a
interesting.
knockoff, the same thing as
Yeah.
Clubhouse. But I think it's just because human beings, when they're all cooped up in their caves, as it were, they all have this desire to communicate and to interact with each other. So I just think it's great. If any opportunities of doing that, be it on an Insta live, be it on a Twitter chat, be it on a Zoom meeting, it's
Mm.
good to talk, as it were.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you can, like the Insta lives that I've done, I know, I've had really amazing feedback from them. And I think people like the chance to, yeah, like to just listen to people talking, which is why I think the webinars are so good as well. And I think, as much as you can tweet and then respond to tweets and then, or the sharing that happens on Instagram as well is amazing. But I think you're quite limited with just like, you know, written responses. I think there's something really nice about actually hearing people's voices and
Yeah,
having that chance to chat to people for sure.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think. Well, I've always said, in a way, when you go to say conferences, some of the best bits can be in the coffee breaks when you meet up with a
Mm.
friend and you have a chat for say 10-15 minutes, and you talk about, I don't know, challenges that you've been having, like I really want to do X, Y, and Z with this tool, how do I, or what's the best way of doing X, Y, and Z, and then you'll have a chat about it, and then you'll come up with a fantastic solution because of the fact that you're having a quality chat with somebody who gets what you're trying to achieve, and say, oh well, have you thought about this, have you, and I just think that's absolutely brilliant. So that sort of informal chatting as well as watching an hour-long presentation, I think they're both really valid, and I think that's definitely something I miss. I'm sure you're the same. I do miss that. Going to a conference for say 2 days, 3 days, and mingling with people, like the language show, for example. Mingling and seeing your friends and watching people and saying hello, and catching 5 minutes with this person and 5 minutes with that person. I do really miss that. I mean, this is lovely, but it's not the
Yeah,
same.
it's not the same, is
It's
it?
not the
No.
same as sitting down and having a sandwich or a cup of coffee or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah,
But I was just thinking, I can imagine for, because neither of us actually teach in schools, do we? So we're
no, not
probably,
now. Yeah,
not anymore. But I think when you're in a school as well, that kind of just an informal chat, at break time over a coffee, or Spanish and umbrellas, but two little coffee cup emojis,
that's
definitely.
great. It's
Like
difficult. I
just
find it difficult to follow the chat while listening at
yeah,
the
I
same
know,
time,
me too.
but
I'm sort of
it's all good. It's just anyway, just
flicking
just an
down that.
observation. Yeah, you were saying, Kate. Sorry.
But yeah, yes, and I think that I think people must miss that so much, and I wonder if that's why all the webinars and all that kind of thing have become so much more popular, is
Yeah,
because you're not getting, I mean, they call it like the water cooler chat, don't they? And that's that sort of info, but you get loads done. And I think, even if it's things like, I'm a bit worried about this kid or something, and you just sort of flag something up, or or you're just like, oh, no idea what to do my year eights next week, I'm a bit stuck on this. And
yeah.
a few people are saying they miss talking to colleagues. I think
Oh,
it's the same in all walks of life. I know my husband works in aviation, he's not a teacher, and he said as well, like, it's just, you don't realize how much you get done as well, and how many ideas you get from people just from having informal
yeah,
chats.
yeah.
That's yeah. So who
Absolutely.
was that just saying online teaching's really lonely? Yeah, I can imagine it really is, actually. And also, I mean, I I think it must be really hard when the kids don't have their cameras on, and they don't have
Yeah,
and like they're not talking as well. That, because the way you get like your energy from when you're teaching is that response, and looking at their faces and feeling the energy in the room as well. That it must be really tough. I bet
yeah.
well, I don't know, it'd be nice to see in the comments, but I bet people are really looking forward to Monday. Probably nervous. I imagine they're nervous, but I bet they
I
can't
think
wait
I think
for
it's I
it.
think it's tricky. I think from a safeguarding point of view, if you saying like all the webcams have got to be off, you're allowed to do well. Let's say if you're allowed to do live lessons, but you're told that all the webcams have to be off. It must be very difficult to create that rapport. That's definitely one thing that is a real problem, I think, with online teaching. If you can see the student's face, I mean, just when I'm doing my training and being able to say split the screen. This was in the days when I just had the one screen. Now I've had the two screens. It's just heaven. But the fact that you can see the teachers' faces while you're sharing at the same time is incredibly important, I think, to
Mm.
gauge how people are feeling. So if you have to have the webcams all off, or if the children refuse to put their webcams on for whatever reason, then that's definitely tricky. I mean, I remember the other day I was in a session and I've been asked to sort of talk about how can you do summative assessments and stop the children from using Google Translate or
Mm.
discourage
Yeah.
them from using Google Translate. So one solution that I gave was, well, you can point the webcams at their hands while they're doing the work on a piece of paper, and then they can then scan those bits of paper, turn them into a PDF, and upload them to Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or what have you. And then, of course, one teacher said, well, what do you do if the children won't turn on their webcams? And then I
Mm.
sort of said, well, you're stuck then, aren't you? Really? I mean, you can't produce miracles in that way. I mean, I think to promote engagement, there are lots of interactive things that you can do. You can do sort of like interactive activities like quizzes and Kahoot and things like that. But if you can't actually see the students' faces, I would imagine. I mean, as I said, I'm sort of looking at you. I can't sort of follow the chat at the same time, but I think that would be interesting to know what people think about that, what they try to do. But certainly something that I've found has helped if you are allowed to have the webcams on. In the case when I'm doing training, if you can see their faces, you can see how they're reacting, the activities. Just that sort of human side
Mm.
of it, seeing
Yeah.
people smile or what have you. It's fantastic, and it's just really, really, really important, I think, to gauge how the thing is that you're doing is going.
Oh God, absolutely. Yeah. I think it is so hard. I did some training a week or two ago, and yeah, I actually found it really quite hard because I was like, I've no idea how it's been, whether they've got anything from it at all, which is quite difficult. But I mean, it's something that's going to be an ongoing thing. So I'm going to have a meeting with, with like separate meetings and stuff with them. So I'll be able to talk to them about it then. But at the time, yeah. And then you just sort of, I don't know. I find this is on Teams. I much prefer Zoom, but on Teams, there were times when I don't know the like my picture, like there was just no picture of anybody at all, and I literally just felt like I was talking to my computer, just talking to a PowerPoint
Yeah,
without any kind of reaction or response or anything at all. It was an interesting experience, definitely. But I have to say, when I've been teaching the teachers in the evenings, and I know a few of the teachers who I've been teaching are here, so hi.
cool.
Most of them will have their cameras on and their mics on as well, and that's really nice because then you get, even if people just go or whatever, it's just sort of it's really nice to have that interaction and response, and that definitely really helps. So
Yeah. The
yeah,
thing that I felt pretty early on when I started doing all the sort of things I would normally do face to face but via webinars was the frustration that in like I say a face to face event, you can obviously walk around and look over people's shoulders, look at their screens, get a pretty good idea of where they're at, or
mm,
the help that they need pretty quickly. Whereas if there's like, I don't know, 15 people watching you live and you're presenting, you don't really know. You get an idea of maybe who's struggling or what have you, but you can't do that virtually looking over people's shoulders and seeing their actual screen unless you ask them to share their screen. But then the sorts of teachers who maybe would be struggling in particular, who maybe wouldn't want to show their screens, they'd be embarrassed to do so. So
yeah,
that's challenging, I think.
mm,
So you just use the soft skills you would normally do, just encouragement or what have you. But that, which is great. But I think that's definitely one of the challenges that I found doing online delivery of training as opposed to 15 people in a room. But those days are gone forever. Who knows? But we'll have to just wait and see.
I was just going to say that. Do you think you'll go back to doing in-person training?
If I can, yeah, definitely. If I can, I mean, it's whatever I need to do to earn a living, essentially. To be frank, I mean, if I can do, I mean, on the one hand, I've really enjoyed being able to, get up at a certain time, do a webinar for Australia, let's say, or another webinar for Lithuania or Italy or whatever it might be. And then, I've done a webinar, then I have, a bit of time doing prepping for the next one, then I'm doing another one. So you can, you're not doing all that traveling. That's something which
Yeah,
on the one hand I don't miss, but on the other hand, I do like that like ritual of going somewhere and staying in a hotel. Like, I'm sure you're the same. And then the following morning, you know, you go to the venue and you check everything out is the way that you want it and all that. But then that takes a lot longer compared to just, you know, logging on and doing a Zoom call for 2 hours, 3 hours. But yeah, so well, let's just wait and see. I mean, nobody knows, basically. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, if everyone gets vaccinated, or enough people get vaccinated, so it becomes there's not this like horrendous daily death toll, and it is possible. I mean, you've got the elephant in the room is obviously Brexit and being able to travel to Europe and getting a visa, because you're doing, because as a consultant you're allowed to go, basically you're allowed to go to, say, a conference, or you're allowed to go to a workshop as long as you're not delivering it. You're allowed to attend a workshop, but you're not allowed to go there and deliver it unless you get a visa. And I mean, a visa, they're not normally not that expensive, but I was always hoping when the whole Brexit thing came about that we were going to have something like the ESTA, which is what they have in the States, and then you have that for like 2 years, and then you can then go in and go out, and you've got the 90-day thing, but that's not if you want to do paid work. So of course, musicians, for example, are in a really bad situation now, because they would, if they want to do any sort of tour, they would need to get all the, you know, the carnets and the visas for all these different countries. So it just becomes, you know, implausible really that they can do that. So yeah. So whereas if you're doing webinars for, say, countries in Europe, then that's okay, because you don't have to get a visa for that. So that's what. So who knows? So the answer is yes, I'd love to, but it just depends what will happen in the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. I mean, even in the next 6 months, nobody really knows. We might get another wave or another variant, or who knows what. So I feel really relieved that I'm able to make a living still doing what I do, because you can imagine, as of like March last year, everything that was in my diary was suddenly cancelled within a couple of days, basically. And that I don't know if you had the same feeling, but I just looked at my diary and I thought, OMG, you know, what am I going to do?
No, because I had a baby this time last year, so I cancelled everything. Literally, he was one yesterday. So no, I've been thinking about this, like, because we were in the hospital for about a week, and it was this week last year when everything just kind of ramped up, and we came home and started seeing things on the TV, and then we were like, we had no idea really what was going on. So no, I'd already gone on maternity leave, and I'd already sort of cancelled everything for so I'd finished all my tutoring and all that kind of stuff. So in some ways it's been the worst time to have a baby, but in some ways it's like, actually, at least I haven't had to think about that and worry about that. But yeah, I mean, I haven't done the kind of, you know, the traveling and the conferences and stuff that you have, so I think that's a different part of it. But I do think about, you know, I was doing tutoring and going to people's houses, and I had here, so we moved to this house almost 2 years ago. The first summer we were here, I had groups of people, so I had 2 weeks worth of teachers coming to do beginner Spanish, and they were all sort of crowded, I mean, it's a decent sized room, but we were all sort of in this room, and we were doing beginner Spanish, and then I was, you know, like, we're having lunch together in the garden. It was absolutely lovely. They weren't sleeping here. They all stayed in the hotels. That would have been a bit much for them, probably. But yeah, and when we bought this house, like, I wanted to have this room, which is like a separate room we've got downstairs for me to do tuition and things like that. And now it's like, I've no idea. I don't know if people are going to come to my house. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do those summer courses again. It's a weird thing, but then in some ways I quite like the online teaching. I think, like you say, you don't, because I mean, you know, even if I'm just like traveling half an hour to someone's house to tutor, it's, you know, that's at least 2 hours when it's only 1 hour of teaching. So you know, you have to sort of plan all that into your day. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do kind of going forward, but at the moment I quite enjoy the online teaching.
Well, I'm really enjoying all the webinars and everything. I mean, I must admit, when we had that break over Christmas, I mean, I'm sure everyone was the same. I really needed it. I was absolutely exhausted. I think the last thing I did was around the 18th of December, because I've been supporting a school in Istanbul, and I remember we had like 2 days of or 2 sessions on like clinic type sessions, but related to what I was talking about before, when we have like a Google form, people fill in the questions they want answered, and then I try my best to either answer them or ask people on Twitter and then make a compilation of all the answers. So I remember when we came back in January, and I think it was the second day that Boris Johnson then announced the new lockdown, and I just thought, oh, here we go again. And I don't know about you, but I just felt really like I was just exhausted at that point, and I just felt that, but then you just, as you do when you have to just pick yourself up and you have to just go for it. And then at the end of that week, we did our first show and tell tilt webinar, and just went from there, really. And as I said, I'm just delighted that I'm able to still make a living. I mean, it's been a very scary time for lots of people. Everyone has been affected in different ways, but I think what's been great about the language teaching community is the way that people have come together and have been able to express themselves in lots and lots of different ways. People have been given platforms, people have been able to have a chat. So I don't know about you, but whenever I'm direct messaging people, I'm saying, are you okay? That's always my first sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just hoping you're okay, which is something I would never have said before the pandemic. So I think these sort of human qualities that we
And
all
I think
have
now
come
you
to the
ask it
fore.
and you really mean it. You really
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
is everything okay? Is everyone
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Is everyone, healthy?
Yeah.
Those actually you do genuinely mean it,
Yeah.
because you just never know, really.
No.
So
Yeah, and everyone's going through their own situation, and that's why. I mean, I've always believed in this idea, the whole like hashtag be kind and all that, but which I think is very true. But I think, particularly at the moment, nobody, everyone has their own situation that they're dealing with, and I think it's just important, to try and as much as possible to always, be kind and show love and all that and support and I mean, again, when I've direct messaged people are saying, look, it's just crazy here at the moment, Joe. We've for X, Y, and Z reason, it's just it's tricky. So it's just trying to work around. Yeah, it's just trying to make sure that that you always take on board what people are saying and be kind to people. I think that's really, really important. So it's an interesting time, definitely. I think emotions are definitely heightened amongst everybody.
And I think people who are going back, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people have been in schools since January, and
of
I
course,
hate when people say,
that's
the
the other
schools are
thing as well.
closed.
Absolutely,
But,
recognizing,
when, as all the kids are going back on Monday in England, at least anyway, and people will be back in schools and stuff, I hope, and I think it probably will be the case, that people are kind, and that you don't know if that kid in your class who's acting up and being a bit of a pain might have lost their grandparent recently to COVID, or or they might just be feeling really nervous and scared and worried, and the teachers as well. I can imagine people are, I know if I was contemplating going into a full classroom on Monday after 2 months of basically being at home all day every day and not seeing everybody, I think people have every right to feel nervous and anxious. And as you're saying, online you need to be kind, and I really hope that actually people are going to be generous to each other. And I think the worst thing you could do would be to just be like, right, we need to get on, and we've missed so much learning, and you need to do it. And I really hope that people are just going to be really gentle and just sort of take it one day at a time, and
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, my little boy is 6 years old now, so he's in like year one. So I feel like really strongly about making sure that he has the the best start he possibly can have, as any parent would have. And you sort of, I feel sad about the fact that he's in this situation, and essentially the world is never going to be the same again, and all that sort of all that freedom that we had before, and this idea that it's always going to be this this horrible, or the illness as we call it at home, the illness is going to be here probably forever. And it's just very, you just feel like how frustrating that is, that you brought this lovely wee chap into the world, and you just want him to have the best possible start, and it so happens it's happened when there's a global pandemic.
Yeah, so for him, that must have been what, reception last year, and then year
Yeah, so in
one this
reception
year.
last year, he had like half the
Oh,
reception disrupted. I mean, we had at the same time at home, we had a great time. We did lots of things like
yeah.
baking and all the rest of it. But it's not the same as all the work they do in reception and in year one with the whole phonics and what have you. And yeah, we've been doing phonics with Rosie at home on a in the morning and all that, and going through the routine, and his teacher's been fantastic, and she moved on together with them from reception to year one, which I thought was really good
Oh, lovely.
in
Yeah.
the sense that she would know all the children's little ways, as it were, which I just think is fantastic. But yeah, but at the same time, he's missed a lot of school, but he's a happy chappy, and I just hope that he'll be okay moving forward. I mean, he loves me reading to him. His vocabulary, as you can imagine, his vocabulary is amazing. I say to him, "Do you know this word?" He says, "Oh yeah, that means this." And most of the time he gets it right. It's just fantastic. So I read to him every single night at bath time. So we've done a lot of Roald Dahl books.
Oh, I love
We're
Roald
doing
Dahl.
other So it's just great. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? When you think to yourself, I just wish this happened. Well, of course, nobody wishes this happens, but if you have like a child or whatever age, then. But I think maybe particularly in early years, year one, when the time is so crucial, you hope that they can not necessarily catch up, because that's not the right term, I think, because obviously it's not just about that; it's about all those social interactions that he's missing
Mm.
out on, and the rest of it. So I think that's something which I find it makes me think a lot for certain. Oh, Mike said, there we go. No, I'm not reading
Yeah, I
effectively.
was just going to say, this is a great
I should
question.
do that. Yeah, I should do that, because my wife is a languages teacher as well, and her Spanish is amazing and the rest of it. But no, when he was first growing up, as it were, we were just making sure that he ate properly and that he slept properly, rather than. I know some people are amazing in bringing up their children bilingually, but that's what we were focusing on. And yeah, one thing I feel I can do is I can read to him a lot, and it's something he definitely loves books, and hopefully
Yeah.
that will carry on for when he's older and into his adulthood as well. But I just think just expose him to as much language as possible, and yeah, and then just go from there really. So in a way, I suppose the silver lining of this situation is the way that I've had lots of quality time at home, which I wouldn't have had if I've been traveling here, there, and everywhere. So that's been really good. And it's also nice in a way to talk about things which are not to do with school and not techie things as well. To talk about other things as well. It's quite nice. So because I
Yeah,
don't
I
normally
mean,
talk about those sorts of things, as it were.
yeah,
But
you've
yeah,
probably
so why not?
learned, you learned things, the kind of thing that he's having to do at school. You probably, I don't know, maybe
Well,
learned.
that's interesting as well. I say, oh, what have you done at school today? And he says, oh, I don't know. And he's like 6 years old. So actually getting the stuff out of him, what he's done. Although they do have class dojos, so that's good. We can then see what he's been
Yeah.
doing. But I just think the whole, well, I don't know. I felt I've developed a real love of reading as a result of reading to him, reading things I've read as a child myself, and then also reading new things we had never read before. So it's like we're enjoying things for the first time. To me, that's really lovely and really
Mm.
special, and that's definitely been a very positive thing that's happened, since the start of the pandemic, for sure.
Yeah, just seen a brilliant comment here. So my sister-in-law's reading to my new niece in English and Arabic. Started doing it in bump. I love that. Yeah, I often think that George, my son, probably heard so much more. Like because I was doing a lot of tutoring and stuff when I was pregnant with him. I was like, I probably heard quite a lot of French and Spanish. I haven't done as much German recently, but yeah, I wonder, if he's maybe. I don't think he would have picked any up. But we have that question as well. I'd be really interested if anybody who's watching is your wife English as well then? So
Yeah,
you're both English but both speak other languages.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we're like that as well. Because my husband did study languages, but he just doesn't. He's not a teacher. Yeah, and then when we wonder like, which one do you focus on? Which one would you actually I mean, for us, the most useful would be Spanish because actually when it's not a global pandemic, my mum and stepdad are actually kind of spend their time between England and Spain. So we get, and my sister lives in Arizona, and there's a lot of Spanish there. So we think, well, Spanish would be really useful. But then we both just love French. Sadly, I mean, I would go with German because that's my Muttersprache, because my mum is actually well, her parents were German, so yeah,
Awesome.
I'd go for German.
Right.
But then that probably wouldn't be fair because his dad doesn't understand German. So. But yeah, but that's the thing. So I didn't grow up bilingual because my dad doesn't speak German, and my mum didn't really think it was fair. So I think that's quite an interesting point as well. But yeah, so just seeing how many. I'm raising my children bilingual. I'm Spanish, my husband's English. Yeah, I think, yeah, Mrs. Sherman as well. I think if you're not a native speaker, it feels a little bit unnatural somehow. I don't know. Madame Pichou, you're saying you thought you'd be strict but revert to English. And do you know what I've heard a lot with kids who are brought up bilingually is that the parent will persist in speaking, you know, French or Spanish or whatever to them, and the kid always responds in English. But it must be really hard to actually kind of, you know, keep speaking the language and everything when I think once they're at school, they just want to speak English like their peers. I mean, I've noticed that with my nephew, that he was born in England, moved to America when he was almost 2 and could already speak quite a lot, and it's really funny looking at videos of him from when he was before he was 2, because he sounded really English, and now he's just completely American, even though his mum still speaks with you know, she speaks exactly like I do. So yeah, I find that really interesting, that it's like that sort of, you know, whatever your peers do is way more important than your parents, isn't it?
Yeah, but then again, if children don't have the opportunity to mix so much nowadays, then maybe that's going to have an influence on their language and what have you as well. Or yeah, it's interesting with my little boy, he'll use words like garbage sometimes. I say, well, actually, we don't say that in England. We say, you know, rubbish. We don't say garbage. Or he'll, you know, do you know what I mean? He'll use like Americanisms that he's picked up from videos that he's been watching or what have you. I think that's interesting as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's just an observation that I'm very acutely aware of. But I think the power of exposing you know, the written word and just reading and making that connection with your child is just lovely. It's really, really lovely. And then I'm hats off to people that do bring up their children bilingually in that way. I think it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Language teachers are just amazing, I think.
I don't know if you see Mike's comment here. I've tried a lot with mine, age 2 and 4, but not successful. Elder says, "Read it normal." I love that. Read it normal. So lots of spontaneous translation. Okay, yeah. So I have some children's books. I've got the Gruffalo in German, and I've got the Very Hungry Caterpillar in French. And we've actually got the Gruffalo in English now. He got it for his birthday, so we read that today in English. But yeah, but I can't spontaneously translate the Gruffalo. It's quite hard from German to English. But the Hungry Caterpillar, I did when he was really tiny. I remember like trying to read it to him and thinking, oh, maybe I should try and say it in English. And I was like, I can't remember. And then because it's La Chenille in French, and it says L throughout, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder if they say if it says she in English or whether it's it. And then I just start thinking about like the linguistic part of it, and then I'm like, oh, fantastic. Sorry, am I meant to be reading you a story here? So, yeah.
I love it. There was a book which I can remember as a child called The Two Windmills, which was originally it's a Dutch book by it's Mary, and then you've got TE on the end. So I don't know how you pronounce that. Mary T, and then it's Reesink, Reesink. Okay. And I looked on the web to see if I could get a copy, because I thought it'd be a really nice thing to do, to read him a book which I enjoyed. It's a very simple book, you know, perfect for a 5-6-year-old. And of course, you know, you can only get like a first copy of it, which is, you're talking like £100.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
No.
And then my lovely mum, who was able to find a copy in Welsh, which she hasn't told me, but I believe was a lot cheaper. You know, I would have felt awful if she spent that sort of money. But anyway, and then bless her, she translated it for me into English, and then I made a big hullabaloo with my little boy, saying, well, this is something that Daddy read as a child and what have you. And then we read it, and then we had a lovely discussion about it. So if you don't know it, The Two Windmills, it's about these two families that have their windmills, and one of the windmills, which is the grey windmill, he decides he's going to he's not doing very well selling his flour and all that, and so he decides to build tree or plant trees all around the white windmill, the nice, which has got the nice family, and so it means that it will no longer turn the mill will no longer work properly. And then there was a storm, and the grey windmill, the nasty one, their windmill was destroyed through the storm. And then the nice people decided they would then come and help and rebuild their windmill. And then the nasty ones, who then turned out to be quite nice, then cut down the trees, and it was all happy families. So I just thought that was, I know it's a very simple story, but
That's
it was
lovely.
just lovely. And it meant that I could then, as I say, read it to my little boy, and then we could then have a chat about, was the people in the grey windmill really nasty or not, or and it was just those sorts of that sort of discussion is just it's just lovely. It's just great. So there we are.
This is a good chat as well, because it's World Book Day today, isn't it? So it's nice.
Well, quite
Nice
yeah,
to talk
quite.
about. Yeah. And I'm thinking as well. So I bought the Gruffalo in German and the Hungry Caterpillar in French because I was tutoring primary school aged kids, and I thought that was it's a really nice way of introducing some language and doing some stuff with them that is stuff that they already knew, but just doing it in a different language. And I've been thinking a lot more recently about incorporating, how can people incorporate that kind of thing, like culture and stories and stuff like that, into their teaching. I think it's, I know that Liam Printer has his Motivated Classroom podcast. He talks quite a lot about using stories in teaching. And I think, it's a really interesting concept. It's a really interesting idea, actually. I think.
I think, well, from a language learning point of view, that whole sort of repetition of structures, and you're going to go down like the TPRS route, and have the approach whereby you're repeating the same structures again and again and again, or the children learn a story off by heart, and then they repeat it a great deal. I think that definitely. Well, I've seen an example of that. There's Sylvia Duckworth, who is also really into technology and languages. But is based in Canada. I don't know if you know her, but she invited me to do a session at her school a few years ago. And I think it was about 4 years ago now. And she's a fan of sort of the AIM approach, which is similar to like TPRS. And I saw her teach a couple of classes, and that's exactly what she was doing. She was using a story that the children had learnt off by heart, and it was very impressive, their pronunciation and the way they were able to repeat the lines of the story. Obviously, I just got a snapshot of it, but I thought that was really, really interesting. So it is. You're right. As it is World Book Day, it's a perfect topic to talk about. But I've generally have reignited my passion for reading, which is I'm reading online all the time, tweets and what have you, but not like fictional books. So it's been a joy. It's been an absolute joy. So there we are.
I think what I love about children's books as well is a lot of the ones that we read rhyme, and I think even though like I say, George is only one, he doesn't understand the language, but I think that the rhythm of it is really nice, and obviously the little voices and things like that are really good. But I'm also thinking about translating that to the language classroom, that actually the rhyming and the rhythm it must be really good for practicing pronunciation, especially because if you pronounce it wrong, it wouldn't rhyme. So you've got to make sure that actually you're pronouncing it correctly, so that so that it rhymes. And
I think any sort of hook like that, be it a song or a poem. A story is a bit different. Obviously if you get like a rhyming story, that's different, but I think I can remember when I was teaching, I were using like authentic stories that I picked up from France, and sometimes there were sort of like the spot ones, for example, like ones that had been translated into different languages. So obviously I was doing the one in French, using the ones in French. Like there was one about colours, I remember, that was very accessible for the children, because I was working in a middle school at the time. And then other stories which I just had come across, which were authentically being produced in France, that weren't like just translations. I think anything that can can spark the imagination. Another interesting thing that my little boy he really likes pictures. So he'll like with all the Roald Dahl ones, they've been illustrated
Oh, yeah,
really
it's Quentin
nicely. And so
Blake, isn't he?
he's yeah, exactly. He's desperate to see the pictures. He says, "Show me the picture, Daddy. Can you turn over? Let's have a look at that picture again." And that's just again something. I know obviously children love pictures when they're reading books, but it's just when it's your own son asking for that, it's just lovely. It's really lovely. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Anything that makes the language memorable, be it music or poem or storytelling, or when you get the children to create their own stories or their own customize their own versions of content like that. I think it all makes the language memorable for sure.
Yeah. I think people are giving some really, really good examples and ideas on the chat. And you know, the one thing that Instagram need to change about these is that you can. So once you finish the live, you can't see the comments anymore, and you can't keep the chat, which is really annoying because people put so many good things in.
I didn't
So
realize that.
if you don't actually like read them or respond to them straight away, they kind of disappear. But I think a few people have said that they watch French and Spanish shows on Netflix with their kids, which I think that's a lovely idea as well.
There's a Chrome extension which apparently allows you to get subtitles. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but it's something like language learning with Netflix or something. I have tweeted about it,
yes,
retweeted the link, but just if you go onto the Chrome Web Store and do a search for Netflix, you'll find it, and apparently some people really like that. I certainly have seen lots of people talking about what are good French shows or Spanish shows or German shows that are on Netflix. We finally succumbed and got Netflix during the lockdown, so I've been enjoying football documentaries basically, and then British films, which is nothing to do with languages, but just sort of things that I like to. Because I don't know about you, but I'd like to work really hard during the day, and then come 8 o'clock, if I haven't got a webinar, which I have most nights, or whatever, when it gets to 8, 9 o'clock, I'm spent. I can't think anymore. I'll just watch some. Something or other.
I just watch people cooking. that's mainly what I do. I just watch shows where people cook. But saying that, we have watched Lupin, which was amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that's great. Yeah, I've heard it's great.
I would definitely recommend that. And actually, I run a virtual book club, an MFL book club on Facebook. It's a Facebook group basically.
Excellent idea. That's great.
Yeah. So until September. So I think it was. I don't know. I've been doing it for about 2-3 years, and for the first couple of years, it was literally every half term. It was French, a French book one half term. And then I set a specific time when we talk about it, and I put a comment in the Facebook group, and then people, I put a post, then people comment underneath, and we chat about it at a specific time. And then and we were doing that even, and actually this time last year, when I think that lockdown was a bit different for teachers. I think this year this sort of January, February,
it's darker, darker time, darker weather, winter compared to March, April, May time. It felt a bit more sunny, a bit more positive.
But it's been, that's been really good for me over the past few years, is actually reading books in the foreign languages. I have to say, I still to this point haven't actually read a full book in Spanish, because that's my weaker of the 3 languages. But I tend to get them in the language and in English, and sort of switch between the two, and depending on how much time I've got and how much time I leave myself to actually read it. But I really enjoy doing that as well. But then like you say, sometimes when you've been working all day long, actually I just want to read some kind of trashy English book before I go to.
Well, I don't know about you, but it's that whole thing of like working where you're living, and then this feeling, you're working really hard, you then go to sleep, you wake up, you then work. I know it's the same for everybody, but that's something. It's like this whole Groundhog Day thing. You're eating, you're working, you're sleeping, all in the same place. You're not, it's not like you're going to a place of work, which was obviously that it's been the case for me for years and years and years, being a self-employed freelance. But obviously before I was then going to places, I'd be traveling, but that whole like week after week, month after month, just doing that routine, even though each day is different. Thank goodness, because I'm able to do all these different webinars. It's just that routine thing has been interesting to to cope with. So it's nice to do things different like this, which is another reason which
Yeah.
I just thought it's a great idea. So that's why I contacted you and hopped on, and it's been lovely. It's been really great.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I don't know. I think what I quite enjoyed about doing these is I haven't like set a specific like, oh, let's talk about this, that, or the other.
Yeah,
I've
which
asked
is
people
nice. Yeah.
what they'd like to talk about, but actually, I think it's really nice to just have a conversation evolve. And I can see, yeah, still, you know, in the chat, lots of people giving lots of recommendations for things so to watch. So yeah, Lupin is a TV show. There's only 5 episodes. We got to the end of episode 5, right?
Wow,
And
I
we
could
didn't.
feel
And
that. I could feel that anger coming out.
yeah, and then we went back into Netflix. We were like, oh, let's watch the next episode. We were like, what? There's no more episodes, but apparently there are more coming. But yeah, we were quite disappointed by that one. But actually, yeah, so I was just about the MFL book club. Is that the next French one? So at the moment we're doing a German one, then it'll be a Spanish one. And then the next French one after that, I really want to, because it's based on a book called Arsène Lupin, Le Gentleman Cambrioleur, or something like that. Okay. Because he's basically a con artist, burglar. I don't know. In the series, so the series is this guy who's like obsessed with this book about Arsène Lupin. So I was like, oh my god, I really want to read this book. Yeah, it's some like really old French book that I don't think was that popular, but I think since this program was made, I think it's become more like people have kind of heard. I don't know. Maybe French people might tell me it's like a really popular book. Everybody's read. I don't know. So yeah, so that's going to be the next one. But I mean, that'll be sort of sometime in the summer term. I think. I don't know. So
but it's also, I mean, in this chat, it's been lovely not to talk about technology for a bit. I don't know about you, but I feel wherever I go, if I go onto Facebook groups or Twitter, everybody's talking about how do I do X, Y, and Z? How do I, share my PowerPoint and the children can hear my audio and things like that? And you think like, I just want to have a break from it sometimes. So to have a chat about something else like books or whatever it might be is really, really lovely. And that's again why I think things like Clubhouse and Insta Lives, I think that's the appeal of them in a way, that people just want to maybe chat about other things or just a bit of escapism maybe as well, I think.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, do you want to talk about technology? And then
we can
I'll let the conversation evolve, see what happens. But to be honest, I mean, if people had questions, they can ask you. They could always ask you. But
and they do, believe me, they do.
Yeah, I'm
messaging
sure
every day. I just take a little bit of your time. I'm not complaining. It's good. I'm happy to help. But if everyone takes a little bit of my time, and then after I've done like a couple of hours answering people's emails and what have you, and then I can't actually get on with the work I'm being paid to do, as it was. It's not a moan. I'm happy to help. But it's interesting some days. Sometimes you feel like saying, you do know this amazing thing called Google. You could actually just put that into Google and you'd find the same information. I would never say such a thing, but one could.
That reminds me of like, I don't know if it's like this where you live. I'm sure everybody has the same. The Facebook groups for like local, local village Facebook group. And it's always like, what time's Tesco's open, or does anyone know a Chinese that delivers around here? And you're just like, Google it. Like, why are you going? The amount of time it takes you to go on the Facebook group to ask that is just like, why have you not Googled it?
Yeah, there's one, an Isle of Wight one, when it's basically talking about the pandemic. A barrel of laughs, you can imagine. But they do say really interesting things like, "Oh, I've got these library books, I can't take them back." And then someone from the library was saying that because we had like a click and collect service, and then someone from the library actually said on the Facebook group, "Oh, they're closed at the moment, but don't worry, you won't get any fines when we open up. Then you can then bring them back and all this sort of thing." Or where can I get deliveries of meat, or where can I get deliveries of eggs or what have you, when people don't necessarily want to go to the supermarkets.
Yeah,
they want the things, so that's been really useful. But yeah, you can imagine the typical sort of people say, well, I was walking down the pavement and there were these two people walking in front of me and they were both next to each other. They didn't go single file or whatever, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I was wearing my mask, I was doing everything I should have been doing, and But again, as I was saying before, everyone's emotions are heightened, and that's why. So again, I think one has to be kind. One has to go, okay, fair enough, and just be kind and not get engaged and not go into a rant. But then other people like to have a rant, and I get that as well. So it's just interesting. Yeah.
It's the passive aggressive. Thank you to the person who parked on the pavement outside my house and I couldn't get past with the pushchair. And you're like,
yeah, exactly. That's literally exactly what. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
same
So,
everywhere, I think. Isn't it? Yeah, I don't know how we got onto that anyway. But no, I think, yeah, it's that idea of just like asking you things that maybe people could Google. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't mind. It's okay. I mean, yeah, it's okay. I don't want people to go away think I'm a curmudgeon. It's just sometimes you think like, I've got to get on with things now. But
Yeah.
I think it's all about everyone helping everyone else, but having a laugh at the same time. I think that laughter is a great tonic. So it's lovely to have a wee giggle tonight as well. It's good because if it's all just like work, then it's exhausting, I think. And getting out every day for a good walk as well is also really, really important.
Yeah, I haven't really been out today, so I'm kind of, actually I've had a couple of days where I haven't been out much. Whoops. But yeah, I try to go out most days for a walk, definitely, because otherwise, you're just stuck in the house. And it's
just getting that balance, I think that's the thing. Yeah, you were saying.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's one of the things that people really appreciate about you, though, is that you are, even though you have however many tens of thousands of followers on Twitter and, and all that, I think people find that you are really approachable, and maybe that's, and that's why they're asking questions. And I think you're always very generous with your time. And and I know that I watched it was a pre-recorded webinar that you did for ALL. It was the Southwest one, I think.
That's right. That was a bit weird.
I just I love the fact that so much of what you were talking about was just like, and you're always so generous about crediting the people that you've seen ideas and things like that from, which I think that's
I've done that for years, but I think particularly at the moment, I think it's I think we are all in this together, but I think it's really important to give people credit for. And if you can't remember where you've come across an idea, to say I can't remember, but always to acknowledge other people. And I sort of pride myself in doing that in presentations. I think it's very important. I think, and also I always put the links to tweets when I found the original reference at the bottom of each slide. So then when I share the presentation, people can then see where I've got the inspiration from. And I think that's really, really important. Really important because it's obviously as part of what I have to do. I have to be constantly researching and reading new things, and therefore coming across ideas. It can take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And so by sharing those ideas, you then hope everyone's going to benefit from them. And it's just lovely if people then acknowledge where the ideas have come from originally. I think that's really important.
I think so, and I think the bigger your audience is, the more actually you owe it to people to be generous with and to not just sort of claim everything for yourself as well. I think the more followers I get, and the more I feel like people actually pay attention to what I'm saying. I love being able to sort of promote other people's ideas and to help people spread their ideas and voices and things like that. And I hope that I try to do that as much as I can. And I think that's something that I've really learned. I think from as much like there definitely is a really good community on Twitter, but I do think that there is a certain community on Instagram who are just so generous and so supportive of each other. And I just feel like everything you do, people are so positive and supportive, and sharing your ideas and saying, oh wow, this is amazing. And I just really try to do that as well. And I think that's something I've done more this year than ever. I think hands up, like when I started doing this, I was probably like, oh, I want to sell my resources and things like that. Whereas now I'm just like, do you know what? There's so many good ideas and so much stuff out there that there's space for everybody as well. Like you don't have to, if someone gets an idea from someone else, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any impact on me. It's not like, oh, they're just gonna, they're gonna think that my ideas aren't worth anything. It's just, the more you share, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, no, I think sharing is brilliant, but I just think that people need to, I think the acknowledging sources is really important. But just going back to like the community on Instagram, I mean, as you know, I'm on Instagram which is pretty clear as we're doing the Instagram live right now.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, there's only so many hours in the day. So I know that I was listening to you talking to Claire last time, saying about the fantastic community on Instagram, and I would love to have a finger in that as well and to be part of that as well. But there's only so many hours in the day, and therefore to try and you can either do some things really well or spread yourself too thin and not do things very well at all. So I think that it's definitely something I want to get into, the whole the MFL Insta hashtag and all that, and work out how that works and everything. But I think so, like on Facebook, for example, I'm in lots of Facebook groups, but I don't sort of post updates and all that. And I'm also quite particular about who I accept as a friend request. It's normally people who I sort of either know personally through, you know, family, what have you, or people that I've met at conferences and what have you. It's not just like with Twitter. I'm more than happy to, as long as they're not a bot or whatever, then I'm more than happy to add them and follow them and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But with Facebook, because I just think, I remember saying I can't remember who it was now, someone suggesting this to me years ago, of like having the differences between like your Facebook groups and then your Twitter and what have you. And I think that's really, really important. So it tends to be more sort of like family and friends on Facebook, apart from the groups, which you can imagine I'm in one or two groups. But the Twitter is when I do my conversation bit, my talking bit, I think, because it's just very easy to become overwhelmed otherwise, I think. I don't know if you're the same, but that's what I found.
Yeah, definitely. So I had a massive Facebook friend cull a couple of years ago. Oh, it felt so good. I just went through and I was like, who are you? Unfriend. And there were people that I went to school with. I'm just like, do you know what? I might have seen you around locally, and I'm not even going to talk to you. Like, you know, I was just like, I don't know. So I've got less than 200 friends on Facebook, and they are genuinely people who I know or who I'm related to, or who, you know, because I lived in Indonesia for a year, and I've got some Indonesian friends on there who I love to just keep up with, you know, how they're doing and stuff like that. So things like that I've got on Facebook, and the same on my personal. So I have a personal Instagram as well that I've hardly got any followers, and I get follow requests, and I don't really allow many of them. But yeah, then my Twitter I don't use personally at all. I just use that for, I mean, I think I've got a personal Twitter, but I've no idea. I don't even know what it is. I don't think I'll be able to log on to it anymore. So yeah, I just use my Kate Languages one, and I only follow education related people. You know, it's all basically, if you have MFL in your name or something educational in your bio, then I will follow you back. Awesome. And the same with Instagram. And then I have another Instagram for my positivity planner. But I'm not as good at sort of, like, there's not as much of a community there that I feel like most people who follow me on Positivity Planner also follow me on Kate Languages. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure why I've got both. But yeah, but the Facebook I do find useful for like promoting things, and the groups. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say that's what I find it.
But then I've got a bit fed up with the Facebook groups, I've got to confess. So I'm sort of, don't know, I'm not on Facebook as much anymore.
I think on Facebook there can be sort of more nastiness, or particularly if you get like an NQT or a trainee teacher writing something, and then you can see some people who, you know, go back to the being kind idea of people being quite like, oh well, that will never work, or I did that years ago and it never helped, or whatever. I think just encouraging people is really important. So I think that doesn't tend to happen on Twitter that I've seen, like in the MFL Twitter article. I know that there are lots of spats amongst the education community, which I hear about, but I don't tend to see, to be honest. I don't tend to follow people that do this sort of thing. But I hear people saying, oh, there's been a spat tonight, and I thought, oh, right, okay. But amongst the MFL Twitter article, because generally speaking, language teachers are lovely and want to share and like to communicate with each other, what have you, it seems to be in that environment, because of the fact that, well, certainly people on the list which I manage, called the MFL Twitterers list, which has over 2,200 members now, and that's the one that I'm looking at every day. That's in addition to following the hashtag, I just look at that list, and because I can take people on and off that list, as it were. If anyone is using bad language or is being nasty, I'll just take them off the list, as it were. But in Facebook groups, when you've got like 10,000, 14,000, whatever it might be, members, it might be that vetting process doesn't always work in the same way, and you might get, you know, flare-ups and what have you. And it's just, I don't know, it's just not nice to see for anybody, I think, personally. But yeah, be kind. That's my message for today. Be kind on World Book Day. Reach your child and be kind. That's my message for today.
Oh, I think that's they're good messages, definitely. And as I was saying earlier, I think as people are going back to school on Monday, and all the kids are going back and everything, I think the idea of being kind and generous and just always having that in the back of your mind, like you don't know what has happened in people's lives. I mean, especially since Christmas, it's been pretty horrific for many people, I think. So I saw a tweet today and I retweeted it actually, that said, I really hope schools aren't going to be really strict with kids about their school uniform. Like, you don't know, like people they might have lost their jobs. Kids grow so fast that they've probably grown out of the school. And I've seen a lot of teachers who are excited, concerned that they've grown out of their school clothes.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few funny tweets on that. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, on a serious note, I just hope that, you know, schools are going to ease them in gently and be generous and kind with them. I think
I'm sure they will. I mean, as we know, you know,
hopefully,
you know, the teaching profession, they've been through so much and they've worked so hard, and I'm sure that the children will be welcomed back, and that everything will be done in order to give them the best possible, you know, welcome, and then go from there, really. And I'm sure there are lots of teachers who can't wait to be back in the classroom, as long as it's safe. I think that's the key, isn't it? And all the testing that's happening. As I said, my wife is a teacher, so so that's something which is incredibly important, that it's a safe environment for people to work. I can remember the whole hullabaloo at the start of January, and the NUT, you know, coming together on the Sunday, wasn't it? And they had this like Zoom call that had 2,000, whatever it was, people watching it live, or either on Zoom or on YouTube. Or anyway, there was thousands of people watching it, and then all of a sudden, after the one day on the Monday when Johnson was saying, "Oh, it's safe for them to go to schools," all of a sudden, then on the Tuesday, it was like, "We'll close all the schools." So, yeah, it's just it's an interesting time for sure. But hopefully now, with all the vaccinations, we are hopefully moving towards something which is a little bit more like normality. But who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I think there definitely seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel. The comment here, it feels like September. I can imagine that. Like when you start at the beginning of September and you feel it's like that excitement, isn't it? But then you're always a little bit nervous. And also, I don't know about you, but every September I was like, do I even know how to teach?
Yeah, I can remember feeling that. Like, have I forgotten it all? And then you get back into the class and it's like, that's what you do. That's right. Yeah, definitely.
It's like riding a bike. Yeah. Anyway, Joe, do you know what? I think, should we leave it here? So it's been, I mean, I could chat to you for like another hour, but I think some people have been here the whole time, which is really lovely, and it's so nice to.
But it's just lovely to talk about other things as well, rather than just talking about technologies. I must admit, my left arm is sort of going to sleep a little bit now, because I've literally been holding up the iPad.
Yeah, I've got both mine free.
So it doesn't
but yeah, I forgot you're holding it up there.
If I take my hand away, it will literally it will just fall forward. So I won't do that.
No.
But there we are. Yeah, there we are. No, it's been lovely, Kate. It's been really lovely.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant to chat to you. I feel like, we've had a few kind of messages on Twitter and stuff, so it's quite nice to sort of actually get a chance to chat to you and speak to you properly.
Definitely.
So.
It's been great. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. All right. And
now, what do I do now?
Sorry?
I know you have to. What do I do now? I know you sort of.
I think
for those people who are watching right now, obviously, I was sending direct messages to Kate saying, "What do I do now? Where do I press? Where's that button?" Like literally, I'm complete novice on this. As I
love it. So, you're the tech guy, and then you're like,
I've got no idea. Well, but then the other thing, I'm very honest about these things. I don't mind admitting. So, do I literally press the X? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'll do it as well. And I don't know whether because you asked me if I can download it. I don't know. I'll try and I'll find out.
Well, maybe someone in the chat. Does anyone know in the chat if once you finish an Instagram live, if you can, if the person who started the live can download the video to their camera roll? Because I had a quick look online, and that seemed to be the case. But I maybe someone can say, oh yes, that's what you do. But I think the person
Spanish and umbrellas. Erica, you've done quite a few, haven't you? So okay.
So Erica, can you let us know what you have to do?
Yeah.
So is it obvious?
Okay. I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll message you.
I think you have to do it like straight away. My understanding is you have to do it straight away, otherwise it sort of disappears in the Insta. To Insta. Okay. Well, okay. I'm sure if you have a chat with Eric, it'd be nice to put this on somewhere, you know, other people can enjoy it on World Book Day. That'd be great. Cool. Okay. I will X off, and thank you ever so much for the opportunity. It's been lovely to catch up, Kate.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Okay.
Cool. Take care. Bye.